Hi, guys, and welcome to another edition of The Kevin Moore Show, which is sponsored by channeling.com. Now, my guest today is Dee Delaney. Now, Dee is a mother, writer, yogi, and more. She worked at the BBC for 14 years before giving it all up to live in India, where she researched and wrote 3 magical books called The Truth Is Within. Now, Dee lives and breathes at this work, and the amazing true stories and experiences she writes about have taken her on a quest across India to discover the fascinating truth about who she is and her life's purpose. Now, she joins me today to discuss her work and much more. Dee Delaney, welcome to the show.
And thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you here tonight, or tonight, India, and morning where you are, I believe.
Yes, India. Wow. What a beautiful place just to start off with that where you are right now as well. Full of such extremes between, those who have and those who have not. And such an extreme with the, spiritual teachings that of the culture's immersed in a sense. It's I'm not surprised that you're there with the journey that we're about to discuss, okay? And India does play a big part of that as well. But
Yeah.
Dee, just to begin with, let's look at your journey. What led you to where you are with these 3 books that you've done as well?
So I used to have what you might call as the Western dream. I lived in the UK and I worked for the BBC. I was married and I had a beautiful family and everything that goes with that, which many of your listeners will relate to. But when my husband died suddenly in 2010, it kind of shattered my world. As you can imagine, my son was only 1. I had a daughter from a previous relationship and her father also died. And then I had a third partner who also died. So by the age of 41, I had experienced the death of 3 men in my life, all young men, all traumatic deaths, and challenged me to really stop and look at life. Of course, you know, I gave my job up at the BBC. I trained to be a yoga teacher and immersed myself really in the spiritual scriptures and the way of beingness and trying to make sense of life and death and what it meant to me through my experiences. And then 5 years later, with still wearing the wounds from this grief, I returned to India. I spent a long time in the East in my youth, and I hadn't returned to India. I returned to India and she called me in. She said, "It's time now, you need to be here." And I moved with my little boy. In 2016, we came to live here on really a search for my soul, to find peace in this story that had come to me, and to find love and to find happiness and find understanding. So it brought
S-
me, sorry,
So,
carry on.
no. I was just going to say, so you're still obviously going through your healing process.
Um, no, I would say I've come out the other end, actually. I would say that it's been a tough 4 years since I've been here in Goa, where I live. But I've done a lot of work. um, but no, I'm very much at peace, and I understand that what's come to my life has been for a bigger story. There was when I arrived in India, there was my personal story, and there was another story that was running parallel with my life.
Okay. So just tell us the title of the 3 books then as well that you've done so far.
So my first book is called The Truth, My Journey to the Other Side, and it's about the journey through the chakra system to healing the self. The second book is called The Truth Is the Art of Being, and it's a walk through the death realms, and I bring together the Eastern wisdom of the Bardo, which was studied by the Tibetans, and the Western system of soul midwifery. And the third book is called The Truth Within the Heart of Love, and it looks at the sacred union of the masculine and feminine within.
Wow. Okay. And obviously, going back all those years, you would never have thought that you would be writing these books, that you would have gone on this journey. Well, I'm guessing it was. Did you have less resistance to the journey that you've been on right now?
I had absolutely no idea. I came with an open heart and a broken heart, and Mother India brought to me this blessing, I guess, like many of the rishis and sages and seekers who have come here to India to learn in the mystery schools, to learn about what life is, to learn about the nature of reality. This came to me through walking the talk, and I realized that I was embodying the Christ consciousness. This is the bigger story that plays out through all three books. And if you get a chance to read them, I say, like, I'm a bit like a Bridget Jones. I have no idea what's going on. I just go with absolute faith that love is stronger than death, and that love has a way of showing you the light. And I follow the light, and I am an embodiment. What I realize now is that I was actually an embodiment of this light, and it related me back to my ancestry and this biblical story of Jesus and the divine feminine that would not go away. I mean, I've been very simple about some of this stuff, and it's like knocking me out. It's like, really, do you?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, going to India, what is India in a sense for someone like yourself? What did it do for you?
Well, Jesus came to India in between the age of 12 to 30. It's well documented by anyone who looks for this side of his earthly life, that he came to India to strengthen his essence. And so I've been following that path, and it allowed me to embody my higher presence in a full ascended way. So to bring this connection to my higher self into my body, I think many people on a spiritual path work on raising and raising their vibration, but not living it, not being it. India rooted me and grounded me, and she dragged this scatty woman who was theoretical, who was in the mind, who understood and studied every scripture there is, from the Bardo to the Bhagavad Gita to Be Here Now, everything. That's the mind. India brought it into the heart. And I always say, it's mind, body, and soul. So you take it from the seed, you embody it through your daily life, and then it comes into the heart and it's in your soul, and then you share it with others. That's the work of the way showers, which I realized, and I'm realizing every day that is who I am, and my own humility and my own shyness and my own I was frightened to kind of step, I must admit. And with each significant change in my life, the story, the trilogy has literally just written itself, and each book is about a significant death. And the girl in me wanted to end the trilogy in meeting the love of my life and running off and, getting married happily ever after. But that's not how it's been. That's not how it is for me. I learn the deepest, most significant lessons through death.
Right, right, right. Um, what are okay to begin with? Your website is
www.deedelaney, that's DEEDELANEY.co.uk.
okay. So that website, along with your books, is linked in the description of this video below. Your website's just coming up on the screen as we speak throughout this interview. Now, just going back, because there's so much to talk about here, and I've taken in everything that you've said, and we're going to come back to that. But just going back to your previous life, in a sense, with your ex-husbands. So, what did the most recent husband in 2010? What did he actually die of?
Tony, so my first partner died of a suicide, and that rocked so many taboos, as you can imagine, because I grew up as a Catholic girl. My second, I wasn't married to him. He was the father to my daughter Millie. My husband, who I was married to, his name is Tony, and he died on a mountain one day, raising money for charity, doing something good, and he just dropped down dead without warning. The partner I had in between those two relationships, his name was Paul, and he died alcohol related, so not in a very nice way. So, but Tony is the one, obviously, that my heart was and my soul was connected to, and he was the one that broke me.
Are you must be grateful though of the memories that you've got with these people, and is it hard to look back sometimes and to remember the good times? Is that can that be tricky?
It would have been our 15th wedding anniversary yesterday or the day before, and it always, as time is a healer, they say, but I wouldn't be here where I am today without him being that love and being that loss. There's just no, I would have carried on living my life with him in St Albans in the UK. So I understand he came to give me my son, and his contract was over and he left. It's very clear. It's very, very clear. And this is what death teaches you when you go into it so much, that you understand that some souls come to this world and their life is short. It teaches you about impermanence. It teaches you about the nature of our reality, which is to play out this divine plan, which is not our own. So you either embrace it or you fight it.
Just even moving on from that, having three people die in your life that were all had their significant part in your heart and stuff, and
Mhm.
all were part of your journey. That's not the norm for everyone to go through that type of extreme. But do you think there was no other way for you to sort of get on your path that you're on now, unless that would have been the way it was?
I, did I call in that? Did I call on in these experiences? No. Life, because I have this massive gift to be able to help people across the death realms. Yeah, you know, I know who I am. I'm a trained soul midwife. I have the gift of parting the veils and helping people cross over, and it's a blessing when you understand what it is. But there was a time, and you're right to point out, in the early days where I thought I was cursed. I thought, what is it with me? Why are all these people dying on me? Why is death following me around? What is it? And what it is some lights in this world just have the ability to see a much bigger picture, and I am one of them. And the lineage that I come from is the Temple of Isis and the Magdalena lineage, where I'm trained to help people. We've just suffered a massive loss in our community in Goa, where a young yogi, her name was Maria Magdalena, Magda, the most beautiful, beautiful, beautiful light, and she died at 35. And people don't understand, when she touches your heart, and she touched so many people around the world, when that hits you, when a young person dies, people struggle. It opens their eyes up to what really this reality is on earth. And I have a gift of being able to show them, being able to comfort them, and being able to explain what happens when a soul transcends into the spirit, where the spirit goes, how they ascend in spirit. That's what I discuss in book two.
Absolutely, and of course, your background, in that period of the passings as well, and maybe even a bit before, but you'll be able to answer this. was there I mean, obviously you were religious, but that
Um,
has its limitations as well. To look outside the one truth must have been difficult.
Kevin, there is no one truth. That everything's truth, actually. And I was born Dolores Ann Catherine Fallon, and the Via Dolorosa is the way that Jesus walked to the crucifixion in Jerusalem. It's actually the name, and it means the way of suffering. So I've been walking my name my whole life. It's a gift, and I thought it was a curse, but now I understand what a beautiful gift I have.
When did you start waking up to your sort of previous incarnations, in a sense, as well? When did they start coming through?
Oh, so as a little girl, little girl, I always knew I was a little bit different. I used to get left, and thank you for asking that. No one's ever asked that. I used to get left 5 pence coins on the way to school every day. Magically, money would turn up. We didn't have very much money. I used to be able to sense people. I used to be able to understand when something dark was coming, and I would be able to tell people you need to get out. So it was very open and clairvoyant. But in truth, when did I really know? When I came to India and the voice of Sarah was starting to come to me, who is considered to be connected to the Holy Family. She just was she wouldn't go away. But there is more to the story. I knew I was at the crucifixion. I knew, I felt it. I've embodied it. I've been there. I've witnessed it in that time. So this story was asking me to look deep within my soul, to look at this, to learn about who I am, and to bring forth the teachings which I call the 10 ways to live in divine union. And they are the teachings that have come from the Christ consciousness, which is Jesus's and Magdalena's. It's not one or the other, it's the two of them together. No, but I can share them with you now if you like. So I'll read them to you. They're written in a poem, and often, if you understand, many of these things that come from beyond the veil come in a poetic language. So this is the truth within, 10 ways to live in divine union. I'm going to have to look down while I read them. So sit in silence and hear the sound of your soul. Listen to the one who is in control. Let your heart be your guide. The wisdom of the universe is inside. Be the best that you can be, for it's only in the moment that we truly see. I am outside looking in. Life is an illusion, there is no sin. You are a ripple in the universe, creating each moment for better or worse. Our purpose on earth is to love without remorse, and to bring this wisdom back to source. Hidden behind the stories we tell is a magical love, and it's under your spell. The alchemy of suffering is not what it seems. It's an invitation to step into the heart and live your dreams. There is no right or wrong. Love is the essence in every song. And truth cannot be known. It is ever changing and not yours to own.
Wow, that is so powerful.
Mm.
Gee, might have to rewind this and listen back to that myself. So that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
What would you say in all your books is the most important message of your work?
Oh, I think there are, what I've just read you, there are so many more layers to that. I think we're living in a time where it's very easy to embody the light, and do good things. Like, you know, I'm out there and you can see I come from a pure place and I'm a gentle, kind soul. But to understand that we all come to earth as pure souls with a contract, and to take on a contract that embodies suffering to yourself or to others is the hardest thing to do, and is the hardest thing to forgive. So there are people here on earth at this time who are playing out their roles as part of a bigger divine plan for a reason. And if we can just open our hearts to that, especially in your country now, I see it, well, where you're living, obviously, in the States. If we can just see that these main players, these protagonists, are part of the picture that is teaching us all how to be as one and equal, then we can turn the fight to the love, to the peace.
Yeah, and you know, some people are playing their part by being in a prison cell for the rest of their life for the actions that they took
Yeah,
towards another.
yeah. And how do we even start to comprehend that? How do it's the hardest thing. It is. I'm learning every day when people come into my life and they teach me, you know, tough lessons. Still, I face them. I face tough lessons every day, and with some distance, I go, okay, I understand you've come to teach me something that is not, it's a tough one, you know.
Are you triggered by that sometimes? Do you go back to old patterns?
Less and no, I'm not triggered anymore. I see it, actually I see it in the moment now, and I catch it. I walk away from it. I've just come from a recent experience where a ascended masters was trying to teach me something quite valuable, and the method, how I gauge life now is I'm surrounded by many teachers, which is the beauty of the world we live in. Everyone teaches us something valuable. But when somebody teaches you from the heart, there's a feeling, an essence that comes with that, and I can feel it. When somebody teaches me something which is perhaps from a lower vibration, where there's an agenda, where there's dogma, where there's my way or the highway, that doesn't sit with me anymore, and I can walk away and say, thank you for your lessons. I understand you've come to show me something, but that's not for me. So it's interesting.
Well, yeah. I mean, even being a mum. I mean, what's your son teach? How do you deal with your son's lessons?
Uh, you need to meet my son. he's the he's the most, I'm sorry, there's something just flipped up. He's the most magical child in the world. So he's the children teach us, Kevin. They have come with their DNA already preset for this world that we're headed to. Most of them have come with gifts and with lessons that we need to open our eyes and our ears to what they have to tell us. Look at much of what's happening in the world with this beautiful girl, I think her name's Greta, who's forcing us to wake up to climate change. She's a kid. She's a kid. Look at that kid who stood up to the president, you know, the other day. She's like, the children are rising, so we have much to learn from them. I think we need to stand out of their way and let them have a voice.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. So you mentioned there as well. Let's keep with the voice subject here. There was a voice that's been with you since you got to India. Has that
Yeah,
voice changed? Is it someone else or something else now?
no,
No, it's still that
me,
voice. Yeah.
yeah,
Is that voice an aspect of your higher self?
it's me, yeah, it's me. I've embodied it from an ascended master, so yeah, it's me.
So you said at the beginning of this conversation, well, sort of midway in, that one, there was a voice that you named, you
Yeah.
named it as well, okay,
Hmm.
and but then you're also saying that because during this conversation, the whole thread is that you're embodying your higher self, which is you
Yeah,
anyway. Has
yeah.
there been a number of aspects of you coming through you?
Many, multiple planes, multiple aspects, multiple dimensions. Yes, and it's fascinating. I talk much about the archetypal energies. I call them the 12 around one, that I see 12 different aspects of myself, but they are more characteristics and personality of the self that pull us in many directions. And I think my whole purpose on earth is to embody divinity and to show that we are divine in our humanness. So that so that means we are living and walking the talk. So I can write 101 books. Doesn't matter if I'm not being love, if I'm not expressing and being love in all that I do. Yeah, I can write as many books as I like. What does it matter? So
True. So you're saying we've got this right here. Well, there's no right or wrong, but well, there is. I mean, there's when I say there's no right and wrong, I mean no one wants to go out and knowingly hurt another or hurt ourselves. Yet we do that all the time. But you're living more from the space of the higher self, and if people could just do that, come from more there, and let's kind of term the higher self. It's like I would call it, it's your soul, it's the essence of who you really are, minus this spacesuit that we wear.
yeah, I mean, when I was teaching when I was training to be a yoga teacher, the teacher was asking, so who are you? And I said, I'm love. I'm love, doesn't matter. I don't label me. I am an embodiment of love. You can call me what you like. you know, I am, you can call me Dee, you can call me mom, you can call me yogi. None of that matters, to be an energetic, to take it down to its core. You take the human skin off. What are you underneath? You are love. We all are love.
And that's the essence of the overall aspect of this soul that we are. And the soul's just a word. I only use the term soul as a word of, who am I minus my body.
It's the essence of who we all are. And that's a really important point you make there. So then, when you know that the hardest thing, there is a fine line between light and dark, huh? A really fine line. There's a fine line between love and hate. There is love within the dark. There's light in there. And they are also souls finding their way on earth, making mistakes, doing horrible things. They've made a contract. We come down, we make a contract. Some of us take on really tough contracts. I call them cage rattlers. They're the ones who go like that. They're the ones who behave in such a despicable way that they make us wake up, huh? And it's happening now on earth. They are just as vital. And this is the hardest thing to understand in life. Their purpose is part of the whole. If we embody that, we are all in this together. Right now, humanity unfortunately needs the cage rattlers because we are not ready to accept our oneness and our humanness as being equal and being pure embodiments of love. So until we are able to accept that, you're going to have somebody go like that and you're going to have someone go like that.
What does a life look like lived from the space more of the higher self than more of the human side? But and as well as what's wrong with living from the human side when we came down here to have our two pence worth? Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Is there too much wrong with that?
No, there's nothing. No, but this is my point. Within the sex, drugs, and rock and roll, this is the point. So, and thank you for raising that because that's a really important. I'm not an angel sitting. Oh no, like a monk would sit in a mountain. Where would an angel sit? I don't know, within a fairy dust, a goddess chamber. I'm not an angel sitting in a goddess chamber in purity. I make many mistakes. I'm having a human experience as a divine being on earth. And this is how it relates to the story of Yeshua, Jesus, because much of what's missing from his life has been the humanness. We put him up on, Father in the Sky. That's, between the age of 12 and 30, he was traveling around India learning from yogis like me. He was going to learn about meditation. He was a yogi. It's very well documented. So he was a human being, a bloody good human being, but he experienced, just like we all do, fear, anger, love, joy, jealousy, because that's what life on earth is. And when we see that we are divine on earth, we wake up and we go, oh, I'm just like you. Yeah, you're just like me and I'm just like you. There's no one better or worse than each other. And I think that's kind of a really strong message to share with people, is you are divine. So be divine. Know you're divine.
And what is the attraction to want to incarnate here, do you think, when, why put ourselves through this if we can have so much bliss from where we've come from? Why have the opposite?
Because my soul contract chose to be of service. It's that simple. I made that choice to come to earth at this time, to learn my lessons, to get rid of my karmic debts, to learn through death that, death and the afterlife is one and the same thing. We're just a soul in a body, and to take away the fear of so many people. I also, at night, I do a lot of work in the astral realms, cleaning, helping lost souls go up to the light. So this is a big part of what I do. So I made that contract to come to earth at this time to show people the way that you are divine in the human body. And it's not me, it doesn't mean I'm having fun, I'm having a lovely time. I am a human being, you can see, and I've lived a life. If you read my books, I've lived a life, I've had the richest, most amazing experience in my life. I'm not a renunciate, and I think that's where I live in India, and Goa is, kind of considered to be the most hedonistic places on earth. I don't follow that path, but I'm here because I'm with many people who are seekers, who want to find their way in life. So it allows people to not be frightened of who they are. This unveiling of this story, I'm only getting used to it, I must admit. And I like to say I'm a bit like the Bridget Jones of the spiritual world. I'm 50 years of age and I've been bumbling along. And when these signs keep hitting me, I'm like, oh my God, really? Me? Because I am ditzy, I like to wear makeup. Oh, I don't wear much makeup, but I like to wear nice clothes and have fun and dance. And be like, really? Is that really what a spiritual person is? Well, yes, it is. Look at me. I'm not a nun, I'm not a monk, but I have all the same aspects
Okay.
and wisdom.
Well, what is not spiritual?
We're all spiritual. We're all body. That's the whole point. We just don't realize we're all divine.
Absolutely. Now, someone watching this who has done some atrocities in their life, who feel ashamed for what they've done and everything else, I mean, what would you say to them watching this right now? If there was some, we've all done things that we're not proud of, but, no matter what we've done, no matter how heinous, we can recalibrate ourselves to come from a different space, can't we? Because it's about now. It's not what we've done before. We can't change that.
Well, we can change it through shining love on it and understanding actually that, this is not you came you came making a contract to take that role. It's a hard role to live. To be the villain let's just say, because there is no right and wrong, this is the teachings in its truest self, Kevin. I'm a light person, so it's easy, but of course I make mistakes all the time. But to come in this world and be the villain and learn some really painful lessons through committing crime or abuse or whatever you've done, oh my God, your soul must be hurting so much, so much. So understand you that you came to learn that pain because probably it was given to you in a previous life, or you know, this is often the cycle, the karmic debt. What I'm trying to ask people to do is to understand that they don't have to suffer now. That's an old story. We need to let go of the patterns that have kept us locked in the past and this belief that we need to suffer. We've come from Abrahamic religions that are rooted in suffering, and we've come through even Tibetan, life is suffering. This is the old paradigm, and there is no place for it where we are or where we're headed, and this is the shift and the change that is coming. We don't need to learn that we're loved through suffering.
Yeah, I mean, and we can have heaven on earth, but sometimes, I mean, that shift that you're talking about could be centuries away. We've started it. It started. It's always been there, but for whatever reason, this is a great experience to come to, and maybe, well, I've very little words to say, as you can hear, because I'm kind of going away from my own question that I'm trying to ask, because to try to make sense of that. Do you know what I mean?
Well, a lot of people don't make sense for it, and I understand that because, there are, I'm trying to show people the way, and when you live from a very high source of love inside you, you understand that. So it's very difficult to know that if okay, let's start with one of the fundamental teachings of the nature of reality is everything comes from the mind. You create your reality by your thoughts. I mean, do you agree with that?
I would say there's a lot of truth in that, but then that's difficult when it comes to people crossing over around you. I don't think you create. Would you say you create every kind? Did you create? Yeah, you did. Okay, okay, carry on.
We that's the point, isn't it? Your thoughts become your reality, and the deeper and deeper you go into your heart, really the truest sense, you come to a point eventually where you know everything that comes into your experience comes from within you. Everything.
Yeah, and I also want to kind of add that the more we come from love from our decisions, but I don't really want to even say that. I want to maybe we're here to learn to come from love more. Even in the smallest amounts, whether it's just at the last dying breath that we have, or whether it's just a random act in some part of our life, just to experience that. We always, some of these great teachers talk about being of service, but that can be to ourselves and others, but sometimes it's not there all the time present in people's lives, is it? That loving aspect.
It's in the little things, and it's in the everyday things, and it's in everything actually. It's up to you to choose where you put your thought, and then when you see the beauty in all, I see the beauty in everyone. It's got me into a lot of trouble, I tell you. Because I've had to learn, I know that we are mirrors, and everything that comes into your experience is a reflection of what is inside. We are mirrors, Kevin. So if what's coming to me is anger, there has to be an element of anger in me to pull that in. This is the clearest way I can
Yeah,
describe
I
it.
mean, I know some people say, well, that's New Age waffle, and I just get a lot of New Age wafflers on my show. But I will say, I don't believe that at all. I'm just saying what people say, right, which can be difficult to hear. But
Actually,
but I will say this: it is a good way of living from what you're talking about.
I think people will say it's New Age waffle because they don't want to accept it. And I'll give you a really good example. I had an experience in January where the man that my ex-partner broke up. So this is the divinity living in humanness. And I was sad and I was upset and oh God, I've been, my husband died, it would be 9 years, nearly 10 years. And so I'm like, okay, it's time to meet someone and move on and share. And so this guy, I thought, okay, there's promise. And anyway, he came to teach me some beautiful lessons. And then very quickly after we separated, he went off with my friend. And I was like, that hurt. And I was furious because you can express anger. It's okay. Because I realized there was something in me that I still needed to work through to go, okay. And there was a bit of jealousy. Now, at the time, I was like, I'm not a jealous person. I'm not a jealous person. I didn't want to see it. But about 6 months later, when I bumped into her, I went, oh, yeah, I am. And that's okay. I recognize it now. So see it for what it is. I release it. I let it go. It's okay. It's okay. That is being human. We're not robots. So to be human and to be divine is to experience every feeling, the good and the bad, because there is no good and bad.
Right, absolutely. And I think what you've just said there will be so helpful to so many people. Thank you for sharing that story and showing us how you've, come on, are still progressing in even everything that you've gone through, positive wise with your teachings. And where is discernment in any of this as well? How do you discern?
Yeah, that's a really, really interesting one because it's a really interesting what's yours and what's mine. Well, in truth, it's all ours because we're all one. So we don't want to see that normally. But in truth, it's all ours. It depends if you're playing from a small place or a big place, Now, if I say something to you that offends you, oh, Kevin, I don't like your hair, and you scream at me, now that's your anger. I've triggered you. That's clearly your anger. You have to own that anger. Now, you can blame me. She did that to me. But when you point that finger, there's always three pointing back at you. Always. We don't want to see it. And so in our relationships are the most beautiful mirrors to who we are. Ram Dass always used to say, if you think you're enlightened, just spend a weekend with your family. we have the ability to spark each other because why? Because there's pure love there.
Okay, and how? Well, yeah. I mean, obviously you've moved from the UK, so you've still got family over there. How have they accepted who you are now?
I don't show them this side of me too often because they wouldn't be able to relate to her. So I talk about, we wear many masks for many people. My daughter is not, she's 21, so I don't want that mum. Just be mum. My mum and my family, they don't relate. Okay, so I am quite good at fitting into multiple scenarios because frankly, many people, if I talk to them like you and multiple universes and consciousness and awakening, and they would think I'm nuts and they'd have me locked up, And so I think we learned, one of the best sayings I learned in my soul midwife training is meet them where they are. Don't preach. Don't try and tell them your way. Just meet them at the heart where they are, with love and kindness, and you'll find the right words. I don't need to explain myself to anybody anymore.
No. Well, thank you again for sharing that because that will help a lot of people as well. Or even if they've heard this before, it's a reminder for them as well. because I think these are your this is your truth, this is your lesson. Do you think there's universal truth though?
Well, the only universal truth is love. What I like to just share. So, my third book is The Truth Within the Heart of Love, and it is my journey through India and France on the search of the Holy Grail, because this biblical Christ consciousness was weaving through me. There are many, many, many versions of the story out there. And I was going down one particular line, and my book was on sale. And then I found out through another level of awakening when the death realms opened and my friend died, and this massive download came. I realised I don't believe that anymore. And I pulled the book from circulation. I've just re-edited it. Now, for me, that was a really, really important lesson, because it told me that truth cannot be known, it's ever changing and not ours to own. We're constantly evolving. As we evolve, new levels of awareness come into our lives which show us things that we are able to receive. It also gave me a deep understanding that the scriptures, now many people and many of your listeners might be thinking, well, the scriptures, the Bible, the New Testament, written 40 years after Jesus was on the cross, it's a load of poppycock. But actually what it told me is, okay, so maybe that is your view, but I've made mistakes. I've put my name to something when I fundamentally believed in it. And with this modern technology, I've been allowed to change it. If you believe that the scriptures are outdated and are not authentic, then understand that I think those people were also perhaps only doing their best at the time for a higher purpose that is not yours or mine. It comes from a divine plan that none of us are owning.
No, that's the thing about religion for me is it's always been, what's in this book is in this book, but anything outside, it's not to be, looked upon or to be thought about or considered.
Mm,
And I think a lot of the some of the teachings, I'll say some, are outdated, in a sense.
they are.
Yeah. Um, but I also think that religion, a soul chooses to go into a religious family. I think before you come down, you choose to go into that situation. Will you break free in your own boundaries, or will you stay confined within? And there is no wrong, there is no right. It's just an experience, and I'm guessing it's just a fantastic experience. Even the taste of milk chocolate must be an experience for some reason. Well, I love milk chocolate, but I'm just saying, even anything that we do, but someone like we've said, and some of these experiences are horrendous. That does not mean we don't stand up against them and to say this is wrong. Okay, even though we're saying there's no wrong, right, but when you start hurting yourself and another, from not coming from love, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that we don't need to keep that experience going. We call it wrong here, but I will call it, we don't need to keep that going. And
Mm,
there is ramifications on this level for doing such things as well. That's why we have laws here. But I'm guessing that, obviously your journey touching upon death a lot. What has death taught you as well? And I know we've covered bits of that, but just for those that are going through a situation
mm.
where they've lost someone, or there's someone dying on them, or even they're dying, what has death taught you?
Oh, it's quite difficult to talk about. I'll talk about death when it first happened, when my husband died. It broke my heart, ruined me. I was destroyed with grief for years and years and years. And but what it does is it cracks your heart open to let the light in. And it's that simple. I've just witnessed the death of, a young girl here, and we've grieved and we've cried, but I've also witnessed the transformation of every single soul here that was touched by her death. Each and every single person will embody that light as their hearts cracked open, and they will ascend as her soul ascends to heaven, which it is. they're also ascending. So there has to be this, it's, you know, I always say to people, when you lose an inner circled loved one, grieve for however long it takes and feel it all. I bottled a lot of mine up because I'm a fighter, you know, and I've had a tenacious nature, and you can see I can't do this work to have been, I've walked through some deep fires to be where you are today, to be where I am, you are, I am. But feel it all, learn from it, understand it as best you can, and don't fight it. Know that there's nothing to be frightened.
But what about not forgiving those who have done you wrong or done your family wrong?
That is such a hard one, huh?
There's many people out there living from that space.
Of course, of course. So say if my child was murdered, could I forgive the person who murdered my child? I can't answer that. I can't answer that. In truth, you know, the human part of me, it would call me very, very deep into my heart to find that level of forgiveness. So I'm not going to say to anybody, of course you should forgive. What I do know is that when someone you love, all I can explain is when someone you love deeply is taken from you in whatever way, you have a choice eventually. You go down the rabbit hole and you stay in darkness, or you climb out and you come to the light. Because I was determined after my husband died that I'd lost him, he was gone, so I would lose myself if I carried down the path I did of self-hatred, loathing, questioning, answering. I would have lost myself too. And my son would have lost his mum and dad. So I made a choice. It took 5 years for me to make a choice, and I went, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I am going to honour you now and learn from your love and grow from your love. And I'm the woman I am now today because of his love and because of his death. And he's still here. He's
Oh, yes.
still ever, you
Oh,
know.
yes. Now, thank you for what you've shared there, but there's always a but, isn't there? How
Yeah.
do people learn to come more from their soul, their higher self? How can people embody more their higher self to bring that into their present moment?
So it is a journey through the chakra system. So you need to really understand your story, you know, where you come from, your past, and work through each chakra. You know, the first chakra is your survival, your story of, well, how was my childhood and my relationship with my parents? You know, am I holding on to lots of regrets? And a lot of people are stuck there, you know, blaming their parents, not seeing that their parents only ever did the best they could. And then you go into your sacred sexuality, your second chakra, and oh my God, so many people are stuck there because if we've come as women, we've been told we can't have pleasure in our bodies, or we've been abused. And men have been the abusers. So, and then you come into your third chakra, your will, and you know that asks you to look at what it is that you really want. And then the other end, you know, the heart, we all meet at the heart, and then the throat. I say lots of men are stuck at the heart chakra, which is about their inability to access their feelings because they've been told as children, you know, you've got to be a strong boy, or you know, you can't feel, or you've been conditioned. So it's a lot of it is looking at your how you grew up and your society conditioning, and all comes from the morphic fields that we've experienced. Many women are stuck here at the throat chakra because we've been silenced for decades and decades as the feminine principle has been, you know, not allowed to have its voice, second-class citizens, there's no equality. And then we open up these through esoteric practices, the third eye and our connection to the divine. But it's about doing the work actually on the lower self to access the higher self. And the lower self comes from the work of the first three chakras.
Absolutely. And we could, I mean, that's just a show in its own right, or many things that we've taught. I mean, I know there's a trilogy of books here, and I've tried to just kind of, push some ideas, within the 50 minutes or so that we've had together. And obviously, you've got a lifetime's worth of, a story here as well, which, again, we've barely touched the books, and there is so much within the books as well. And like you say as well, the third book is going to go. When will the third book be available again?
It's just been re-edited now, so I would say within a month or two, it won't be long.
Yeah, yeah. And it's inspiring that people can write their own books on their own ideas. And I think with any truth that you come with, as long as it comes from love. I mean, is a truth? Can a truth come from anything but love?
Ah, that's a really good question. I think we are influenced sometimes by sources that don't come from love, lower energy sources. I think for example, there's a lot of people who are, fearful of, negative reptilians on the earth, or negative influences on the earth, and that's their truth, and they're fighting that. And for me, that story is not bound by love. That story is bound by fear. So there is love, or there's fear, and anything that's not love is fear
And
based.
hasn't a lot of that shite, which is good, and it's pretty good shite as well, because it triggers people to look, to why they believed that as well. But there's so much nonsense within the spiritual awakening field right now that's been mixed in from the UFO field. I'm not saying that field is not genuine, but there's been so much mismatch of information that's come in to this over the past decade and less, that it must be a real journey in discernment for people to move past the conspiracy side and get into really what this is all about.
Thank you so much. That's why I had to rewrite my third book, because I was and I have a chapter in my third book that's called It's All Just Story. And I was getting caught up with the story. And we are 7 billion people on this earth with 7 billion different stories. That is the beauty of creation. And all our stories are right. We're all right. We all own our own story. So you can't tell me that I'm wrong if it's my story. But it's the lesson behind the story that
And
matters.
sometimes the lesson behind the story was discernment.
Yes. And sometimes the lesson behind the story is stop going down the rabbit hole, because what happens is, going back to our original thing, is your mind creates your reality. If I go down the rabbit hole and say it's this, it's this, it's this, I am at a level of evolution. I will create it. It will manifest in my world. That's the nature of our reality.
Yeah, so when we start saying, there's bases in Antarctic, the government's out to get us, I've got the truth, I've gone onto these ships, or whatever it may be, right? Well, okay, in their head, they know that it's not true, but they're creating that story because better they're not. Why not? They're having some fun. They're actually learning something about themselves. But the people get attached to other people's stories, don't they? And it's like the lesson in that must be, well, hang on a minute. What are you really getting out of this? Where's the evolution in you as a soul?
Well, we are co-creators. So what happens is, as if I start creating this story that, I don't know, pigs can fly, let's just say, and then I start spreading the word, and 10,000 people go, oh, pigs can fly, and 10,000 people go, oh, pig. I guarantee you we will see a flying pig. We are co-creators. We are energy in mass. We create the world and our reality. It's that true. I'm just reading. Have you ever read Autobiography of a
No, that's on
Yogi?
my to-do list.
Must read it because in India, there are wise sages who can create just through thought, turn morphic fields of energy into oranges. It happens. It's been witnessed, all these miracles. So I was just telling you how us yogis in India can disappear into thin air, and now I'm back. But the point is, we are capable of so much more than we realise. Um, we really are, and so we make a choice. I choose to focus on something that is very pure and loving, or I choose to focus on something that's very fear-based. The choice is ours. That's how we create our world, Kevin.
Absolutely. And I think the way you've explained that is really important. And I know that we're almost at the end of our conversation right now, which I'm sure we'll rejoin at some point in the future. I'm sure we will, right?
Yeah,
Because I've thoroughly enjoyed having you on.
yeah.
Your website, one final time, is...
Is www.deedelaney.co.uk, and it's D-E-E, Delaney is Delaney.
Excellent. Well, look, Dee, thank you so much for sharing your message today. It's so important, and I've really enjoyed, having you on and just listening to what you've said. It's been so helpful to so many people. So thank you so much.
I'm really grateful to you as well, and to your listeners for giving me this time. And I didn't disappear into thin air. That was a power cut in India, just to let you know.
That's
I'm not that good yet.
no, well, absolutely. Well, not yet, but yeah.
Maybe it's when you're 35.
No, I think it's great what you're doing, and I just really appreciate it.
Yeah, me too. Thank you, my love.